Times continuing and set position locations, just going through primary circuits and travel. And just waiting for cycles to come in attractions, location at team lines. Indications are chosen in 144. All right, so it's great that you guys are handing in your test. Test review and evaluation is extremely important, guys. There's a reason why you come in at position locations, and you're probably wondering why I'm wearing all this. Is because I'm in Mexico and it's it's very cold in the morning. So there's no heating in Mexico. You have to have that in position location calculation setting. Now I can change the frames and the particle line acceleration system and make it hot, but in track correlations to its system, it's just uncomfortable with this cycles. Coming into the warmth and track centers, line communications, the levels of summer, spring, winter, and fall, and all position location calculations. We have to really understand how to put position lines and settings. We're now coming into the 7 cities or realms of the holographic systems. So everything that you see around in all communication setting comes in all lines of flux. Now we have to understand that in that track locations, everything has already been here, which means is the balance, the energy, the existing of the networks that's always in track locations. So you're here to identify that. And the only way to identify that is to raise your frequency. When you raise your frequencies, you see intelligence at your frequency. And you keep raising your frequency, you see higher levels of intelligence of frequency. But now we're in the 1212, position location of 13 lines of track calculation lines of portal and line communication settings. So everything you see in this guideline set position location will be out of line course centers, which means it'll be in their sectors, vectors, and quads and frequency that's already in system. This is all levels of times continuing. So that's why you're seeing everything in reality that you don't understand. The team understands these set course centers. They just have to release more lines of communications that come into the time continuance. That puts your position locations and how you see everything through attraction, all levels of frequencies. It's all connected to everything. They're here, you're here. We come together in unity of consciousness in one set position to one energetic pattern that puts everything in location system all through tractions. That's how we come to all levels of existing all at once in set position to operation. So understanding that and set correlation system, you're here to understand how to see yourself at a higher frequency. And the more you come into that, the more you come into times continuant. The times continuance just basically puts everything in set position location settings. And once you understand how to modify that, you can morph and mutate into anything in attractions, anything through platforms. So now we're sitting at the 7 cities of holographic cities that you guys brought in through creating, through times continuum of force recognition, a pattern of face recognition settings. All right. Coming into that plateau, the allocated position lines of time frame is all position locations calculation coming into holographic cities. That's already set in design. You have to understand these things. They've always been here. But you have to understand too is that you have to put yourself in your body at a frequency to communicate with them. That's the only way you can understand them, through telepathy. They connect to you, you connect with them through telepathy. That connects back and forth lines of sonar or anything location settings in position location system through echo lines, screen adaptation lines of flux, or in location setting of Zulu. Setting lines of communication lines of travel puts everything in track locations of balance. So coming into that position locations, this gets you ready and prepared of what's going to happen in cycle. So it's in a continuous force of a line continuance setting that puts everything in time frame in track locations of balance. This basically puts you in all lines of communication setting to really understand how to communicate to higher levels in teleportation units. Cores, lines of track interference, everything in cloak and dagger at a 1212 is now coming out of setting, which means you're going to see everything in set position of front view. That puts all communication setting to its frequencies of times continuum. Remember, they're already at their time continuance. Now you just have to understand how to go up to those plateaus to the energized lines, and they communicate with you only through telepathy. Okay, this is how we have to really understand our realities. And to get into that, it's classification A, B's, and C's that puts all communication Andromeda. That's right, guys. We're in sectors, lines of quad, center, line communication Andromeda that puts everything into processing communications, how to really connect with your endorphins, how to connect with your cerebros, how to connect with your syntax, how to connect with your matrix cortex, how to connect with anything in codex. It's a line communication system, how to understand how to communicate in all levels of teleportation. All right, so your test weeds its system, location is settings. Now your future adaptation of levels at the present location of its past. Okay, so the test is basically what you already are in set position location settings. No, it's not something you already know if it's in times continuance. It's something that's already in access that you already have. But when I say have, how does have come into your position? Home beacon light, atmosphere lines, volume communication lines, energetic screen line adaptation system. So sending lines of communication high center interference, high travels in position lines of communication setting, but it's all communication lines of travel. Within position signal in rotation surface and trapeze system, different lines of intelligence, different lines of calculations. So the more you understand how to use your energy, the more you understand how to use that vibration, and the more you understand how to use the position lines of track correlation setting and travels. Okay, so we'll go through an energy line, setting communication lines high setting, process equals lines into vibration. Now a vibration system is the graph. Okay, vibration is graph, right? It's calculation setting to use human resonance. Okay, the graph communications, right? Understand the E volume, E factors, E correlations, E travels, indirect signals, and teleweaving, and telecommunications, and teleportation, screen adaptation, right? E factors, everything lines of quasar, line communications, X lines of 1, set position lines of X lines of 3, set position location X lines of 4. Communicates high centers of 6 over line, indirect signals, modification graph, communications of video line, video graph screen, or correlation set into game screen, correlates the setting into flux line and travels in point communications. I'm just doing Y screens, directing lines of E factors over screen. Okay, very complicated stuff. But if you change it in direct signals, you can see it at all different levels of volume and track location. Okay, now it doesn't look like much, but it's everything to all levels of teleportation, of travel. Okay, and that's how XT1000 see you, and modification your energy signatures and your vibrational graphs and your frequencies. Now coming into frequencies, is understanding the frequency lines of the grounds, the frequency lines of the powers, and the frequency lines of your atmospheres and your magnetic highway. 4 provision cycles and times continuum. Setting core line calculation lines of high center interference of space, and correlation system line calculation setting of travel. Directing in modifications U and the center operation of surface and track location, just expanding in line screen adaptation of set calculations. Setting communication high center interference, ground calculations, screen lines, adaptations of flux over lines over balance. Directing in communication high center interference, flux over screen, and direct signals into modification system of center calculations. All right, directing lines of signals. Look at that. It's at position locations. It's moving by itself. All right, center core system over lines across locations. Energetic lines, X lines of 5 line rotation surface interactions. So you guys have to understand more modifications, right? Because what you're seeing is already in provision. Now, understanding the plasma line screen, they come to you closer and closer and closer. Remember I was telling you about the sun, how the sun comes to you, the more you go to higher frequencies, the sun comes to you, more higher frequencies. The more you come to higher frequencies, the more you see it here. And then you see together, which is a process of yin and yang, all right? Because nothing's separated, just different angles. Setting position lines of high center interference. At position lines of travels, set communication settings and line screen adaptation of the surface and track location. Sets calculation modification lines as shift lines of communication line screen adaptation of your settings to your satellites. Now, communication ground centers. This is how XT1000s or XT platforms or any line position location X3s or direct signals into lines of measure that scales its communication high position and its balance that comes in track location to its system of the calculations. All right, ground center lines of 1 in flux over screen and direct lines of modifications. Now, this is all lines of energetic lines heading. Position of processing is lines of plasma line screen adaptation of TV separates or correlate settings of travels. Box line frames, directing lines of TV line screen adaptation to 3 dials and 3 set correlations. Setting communication lines of 80 platforms, setting communication high center interference of 90 platforms, setting communication lines of 100 platforms, setting communication lines of seconds, minutes, and hours in track location system to an X-line fly. An X-line fly is a flight rotor. Now that router rounds the line set location to an accelerated sets communication system to X equals lines of 0, 0, and 3 zeros on lines of attractions. Directing lines of modifications ground centers, it gets more complicated when you shift lines of anomaly and travel in communication to its position all through track location. Okay? So, coming into K-line screen, directing lines to 3 other patterns, ruler lines of high center interference and high position as it travels. 3 core lines in high centers and line position location to its system all through tractions. Directing core line centers to an X line that comes in detection and location setting through a D line X into X line 1 into X line force and travel. Setting communication high center interference, set position offline calculation setting off grid location system and travel. Directing signals into modification ground shift lines of communication and back force and high position location high calculation lines of travel. Directing lines of symbols and cross lines of set lines, high center interference and routes and routers and communication. Directing calculation lines screen adaptation of flux over cross location system. Allocates line screen adaptation of TV lines of flux location. Directing lines, modification lines, XT line 1 rotator, line communication comes out at TV box location of screen. Directing symbolism in line cross location inside position location of the universe line communication of plasma screen. Directing lines of travel, see it disappear, you didn't see it, right? You got to catch it because it disappears. If it disappears, it's not there. If it's there, it is there. Setting lines of communication, high center interference, high position location lines of metric media, core lines of scales, communication lines of bounds, the lines, high center interference of travel. Directing in communication, high position of travel. Okay? Set communication, high center interference, bring in line communication, up line swing, down cross location of system, and track relation to high position location of setting. All through tractions. So when they disappear, you have to be consciously aware of what's going on. So they're just cloaking their dagger, and they don't recognize you through frequencies. They go dark, and if they go dark, they set their force fields and take off, so you don't see them. They continue on their path of what they're doing through pathogens to college and location to their colonies, setting lines of communications, high center interference, plasma screen line adaptation, high center interference, box frames, triangulation frames, correlations, pixelation, cross location system, set lines of high center interference to 3 panels and traction. Directing in symbolism location lines of 4 lines of communications. Direct communication lines of high set position of 4 lines of communication lines of setting line communications. In charge, directing signals and modification lines of setting. Process lines of time sequence, box line frame, triangulation frame, circle line communication. Directing core line centers in position locations, bring it out through correlation lines of box frame communications. Directing communication high center interference into X lines of 1, X lines of force, X lines of C, and X lines of G in set position. 4 correlation lines of panels, process lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3, and process lines of 4 in center communication. Okay, all set up. See, you didn't see it, disappeared, right? When it disappears, it goes dark, which means it doesn't recognize your frequencies, okay? That's what you have to understand. You just have to see it again. It disappeared, see? I'll do it again, watch. There's the line, okay? Is it still there? Yes, it is. So now it's in balance. So if it goes dark in position, it puts up its force fields. If it doesn't recognize your frequencies in setting, guys, is it still there? Well, let's bring it back. Is it still there? Yeah, it's there, so it's all in balance. So recognize your timeline. It recognizes your frequency line. It recognizes your panels. It recognizes your operation system. It recognizes your core line communication, high center interference, electrical line communication, high center interference, a timeline sequence, and time panel communication, operation, news, calculation, setting, and travel. All right, directing signals, symbolized on 1 lines, platforms as E line of factors over line into Andromeda and position lines of sector. Core line calculation lines of split line, core centers, line position location to a system through energetic dome screen adaptation to its surface interactions. Directing communication, high center interference, high position programs. Directing lines of energized surface and track location, high position of measure. Gua. Now my question. So all they're doing is setting things up into the holographic cities of realms of calculation, right? That's all they're doing. So when they disappear, they're not balanced with you because they don't understand you through frequency. So they go dark and they put out their force fields and they continue on their path, all right? So you don't see them. So if you truly understand that, then you understand the upswing and core line centers of travel, in point lines of X position lines of travel. Setting communicates high center interference, line position location operation, all right? It's gonna get more complicated. Center lines of units, direct lines of Andromeda, sectors lines of 1, position lines of travel, indirect lines of signals and modifications, X lines of 1, there's X lines of 1, platoon lines of X lines of force, X lines of setting, X lines of set lines, position locations of mothership. Sending line course centers into command ship and travel, okay? Sending position lines of high center interference, line lasers, line location lines, cross location, line position of center line communication mothership. Directing line course centers, platitude line rotation surface and track location lines, dimensional round sequence, line score centers, line communication setting, energetic domes across location of a system. It disappeared, so it's not ready. It's because it doesn't recognize your frequencies because it's too high. Oh, it's there. It's balanced with you now, guys. So remember, if it disappears, it's not in balance with you. It doesn't understand you through frequency. So it takes lines of high center interference of 240,000 seconds a minute, lines of score lines of seconds a minute, line communication of particle line and activation screen lines, particle line high center interference and diffusion, core line center electron, proton, not line position location travels, points lines and fuse location setting of flux, and communication line head triangulation high position program, directing lines, communication lines of female polarity, and position lines of box frame, and position lines of travel. Directing communications, high position communications. So it's going to get more complicated now, a lot more confusing now, into the realms of communication of 7 cities in traction. All right, interline screen adaptations of 2 lines of cycles, line conditions upswing, line rotation surface, and downshift. Process calculations of ground centers, over cross location, and position location of center of travel. Is it still there or is it gone? That's there, right? Set position location. See, it disappeared. You got to watch it. Oh, there. Now it's balanced with you guys. So if the line disappears, guys, pay attention to this. If the line disappears in position, it's not ready for you because you're not at that frequency. Until you reach that frequency, they're going to disappear and go dark. You've got to pay attention to that, okay? And again, see, it's gone. See, it's not ready. Is it ready now? Is it still there? Now it's balanced with you guys through frequencies. Recognizing time sequence of monitoring system lines, detecting high center interference of line mass, line position of survey mass, core line communication lines of plating mass, high track location of high position of levels of communication mass, high interference location and high position location of travel mass, high position location and E line row line set line is lit I O I E R. Scan communication lines of A E I O U. Right? A E line I O U. I line, I-U, all right? Sand core lines at alpha, line position lines at delta, data bits slow, beta, beta, bar. Core tate, nimati, jet, lower jet, jima. Core line, center line, position of travel, right? Setting communication grounds, inner core line settings, high position of vowels, directing lines, signal lines, and position location of set lines, and high communication system, and communication to its system. Setting calculation lines, X lines of 1, set position of 1 platform, 2 tractions, 3 line signals, 4 communications, understanding how to use 5 signals and set lines of 6. Are they still there in system? Yes. If they're not, you're not in position of balance. All right. So that's what you have to understand. How real it is. If a line disappears, it's not ready to use in frequencies. It has to scan your system and balance out communications. Right? If not, it goes dark. Set core lines of 4 over 2, 3 over 5, 2 over 1, and track location. All right. Is it still there? All right. We're in balance. All right. Directing lines. Now let's go into X line 1 in positional platforms into box line J, J position lines of K, K lines of L, L lines of N. Set position OP lines, A position A, B, C, line course setting, endorphins. Signals lines, alpha screen line adaptation of surface attraction, moderating line screen adaptation of box surface. Is it still there? Yes. Okay. Balance communication grounds. Let's flip the charts and set position location with setting and track locations. Direct in modification height as center. Process communication line screen adaptation lines of surface track on energy dome line screen adaptations. Process lines of 1 over cross location lines of high center interference. Still there? Good. Balance. Setting core line centers of 2 over 1 tractions. Direct lines of 3 over lines of 1 traction. High position location 1 over 0 1 position locations. Oh, it's gone. It's not there because the frequencies are too high, right? So if I do it again, is it ready in sequence in position of balance of you guys? Hey, we're there in position. Setting communication, high center interference, high position travel communication lines of X lines of 1, position of 1, 1, 1, position lines of panel core lines, calculation lines of relay, position of program correlating, high center interference, operation lines, calculation, high interference, location and travel, lines of signature lines of 007, general AI, calculate, modify, track location lines, signature stamp, directing signals, modification ground centers and surface, endpoint lines of communications. It's still there? Good, done. All right, directing view, cross location settings, allocate timeline screens. Sending communication high centers, line direct signals, and alpha lines of wave communication centers of travel. Directing inline rotation surface and track locations. 15 lines of volume. Set core lines of 6 lines of volume. 6 core lines of high centers into lines of 4 lines of volume. 6 over 3. 3 lines of 6 and 6 lines of 2 over lines of 0 over 1. Sending communication high center interference into a mothership and track locations. Directing lines of symbols at 4 over 6 over 3 over 9. 9 position lines of travel. Cross locations 1, 2, line position lines of a fencing system and travel. Setting position location lines, primary circuit lines of 0, 0, position lines of 1, system line condition setting triangulation of flux over correlation. Is it gone? Yes. Where's the triangulation? Not there because the triangulation is too high. Got to do it again so it gets bounced in your frequency, position line to trap. Is it still there? No, it's still gone. Let's do it again. Triangulation, is it still there or is it gone? No, it's there. We're in balance. Setting communication high center interference of 0 lines of 1, 0 lines of 2, platforms of 3, platforms of 6, platforms line communication locations, graphing communication lines of alpha, graphing communication lines of delta, graphing communication lines 0 correlation setting, omega lines positional correlation setting, 4x lines of channel, directing lines, position location, box line frame, position location setting. Is it there? No, it's missing. See? These two are missing because the frequencies are higher. Remember, lines of communication system are levels are all different lines of intelligence. If it's not in position of your frequencies, it doesn't understand you through calculations. All right. So it needs to get balanced with your system and tractions. Is it in balance now? Yay, we're there in cycle. Nope, we got, oh, that's missing now. See? Do it again. Set position. Is it okay now? Yay, we're in balance. You see how powerful it is? Do you see what's going on? Do you see what's going on? All right. Let's set lines high center interference. Let's swing the core centers of travel. Okay. Okay, let's swing the correlations of travel again and set position locations. Now you have to understand why they disappear in front of you, because they don't understand you through frequency. And if they don't understand you through frequency, you wonder why you get an emotion, because they're trying to communicate with you, but they cannot communicate with you until you understand you through energy, vibration, frequencies, and harmonics, guys. Okay? So every time I put something up, if it's not there, you understand why, right? All right, energized core lines of platforms, a setting of C over 1, directing lines of platforms over C over X, and X over lines in position and mothership and track location. Platform communication screen lines, is it all there? Yes. Let's go in ground line communication lines of sonar and track location and setting. Process calculation line directing of tubing. Line cross location system, all through energetic line of center core system of center operation setting of travel. Is it there? No, it's not. It's too high. Let's do it again. Set position location. Is it there or is it disappeared? Oh, it disappeared. Let's do it again. High position location and travel. Do you see it in position location of setting? Now it's there in travel. Hooah. So everything that disappears, you're not in position of their frequency until they get bounced with you through scanning, through operation. Hooah. All right. So high core line centers of travel in routes and routers and line position location of wormholes. Let's track its settings. Let's go through lines of circles here. Now I'm going to go through center line gap. A gap line, core lines, calculation lines, in position of ground lines, operation lines, signal location with program lines at high center interference, X lines of 1, set position of 3 platforms, 3 core centers, indirect signals into modification lines of Jupiter, position lines of all calculate and modify into Neptune, and position locations of Pluto and track locations. Is it there? Is it balanced? Good. Do you see the one signature? Is it there or is it gone? No, it's there. Triangulation, you see it or is it gone? Oh, it's still there. Setting communication lines, is it there or is it gone? Is it there? Yeah, it is. Okay. Process calculated at ground. Is it there or is it gone? Oh, it's still there. Setting over cross location, is it there or is it gone? Oh, it's still there. Setting program lines at DV line rotation cycles, 3 box locations. Is it there or is it gone? It's there. That's the balance. So the more you get in position, the more you understand the energized lines, then you understand the core system, how it works in all levels of operation of your system. But you've got to get in modification cycles. And the only way you can do that is everything is information of times continuance. Okay? Boxing lines of center and rotation center. Is it there? Is it gone? It's there. Center core centers of 0 lines of 3 line rotation. Is it there or is it gone? It's there. All right? Let's go into structure line. Okay? Is it there or is it gone? Yep, it's still there. Let's go through a platform communication system. Is it there or is it gone? Oh, it's still there. All right. So once they recognize your frequencies, it's much easier to get position lines of time lines, of time editing, and time screen. Yep, it's there in traction. All right. Let's lines of high center interference. Flick the switch again and set position calculations. Down signal. Is it there or is it gone? It's there. Center core system lines of travel, indirect lines. Is it there or is it gone? Oh, it's there. All right. Now it's getting more balanced with you guys because you're understanding more communication setting, letting everything go and set position location and just living in times continuance and also calculation. Is it there or is it gone? It's there. Hooah! How's everybody doing? You want to know what's really going on? I'm telling you exactly what's happening in position location study, all through structure, all through volume, all through equation. Okay? They're just setting up the 7 cities in your system in tractions, which you already have. So remember, guys, they've always been here. They've been the balance, they've been the energy, they've been the existing of its networks. Setting a high center line, position, location, and travel. If I get a triangulation line, you see it, the triangle, right? It's there, right? It doesn't disappear, right? Because it's at a low spectrum. Setting ground lines, if I wrote the routers and changed the frequency lines on my finger point lines of digital frame, it changes communications, but it's there, right? If I wrote the routers again in line communication, set in line core center, the mediation graph communication, is it there or is it gone? It's there, right? So it's all about understanding the balance of what you're doing. But once I add XT1000, it changes the platforms because they higher levels of frequencies. So these are high lines of high positions, all levels of travel communications. They're all there, right? Because they're balanced with you. So it takes lines of seconds, lines of 24,000 line screen, and directs signals and modification of ground centers into sky grids and webbing system and travel in communication setting and process calculations. Is it there or is it gone? It's all there. All in balance. Okay? Now imagine that. All this going in the sky. All right? So, when you look at it at this angle, you look at it on this angle. Okay? You have to see it on a 4 angle what's going on. 4 angle what's going on through structure of design. 4 angle of what's going on. Okay? And sometimes they'll disappear because they don't want you to see what they're doing because you're not ready to see them. So now you understand the tractions, how this all works. Let's go through 4 lines of anomaly in 1 cycle, 1 center, 1 surface, 1 tractions. Let's go through the atmosphere line equals lines of alpha, lines of addition location lines into graph line communications, signature lines 007, set communication lines of grounds, right? Core line settings to mothership and travel. Motherships checks the balances to the alpha line in positional equal lines equation into the graphical screen lines adaptation in 007 and travel. Oh, it's not there. Okay, disappeared. So, setting communication ground centers lines of travel communication system. Let's do it again in line communications high setting. Process lines of setting, process lines of system, process communication and graph communication lines of height position of 007. Now it's in sequence. Setting core line settings, 1 position, 2 position, 0 position line calculations set in center communication of its mothership. Directing line core centers, line signal, line condition setting, alpha lines of 1, alpha lines of 2, alpha lines of 3, alpha lines of 4, and track location lines of provision. Still there, good. Setting core lines, graph lines, laser lines of 1, laser lines of 2, laser lines of 3, laser lines of 4, laser lines of 5, laser lines of 6, and track location. Is it there? Good. Let's flip the switch. What have we got in track location line height position located to a setting? A tidal wave. Okay. Water continuance. Graph communication height center interference line positional programming. Bringing in line calculation setting to X floaters. X floaters, Y line, G lines, core line centers, X line position locations into kaleidoscope, and 4 lines of communication lines to measure. Are they there? Good. So in that positions, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, and cloak and dagger, and line position of the travel. Are they there? Good. All right. So now you understand how it all comes together in sequence lines of panels and line communication system once you get balanced with their system attraction. It's all done through equation. All right. All right. So everything that you see, you start off with a 4-line angle, right? Start here and here. That's where it starts, right? Starts from here, starts from here, starts from here, and starts from here, okay? Now, you're here in directions of center. So you have to control your system and truly understand how to use the arrows of indications of where you're going through travel, okay? Start with that position. Where are you going in positions, lines of travel, in communications? Where are you going in position locations of travel in set position? Where are you going in set position lines of travel in set lines of indication? All right. So it's all lines at 4 different angles and traction. Okay. So I just want you to understand how powerful it is of what's going on in position, location, and setting. Okay. All right. So once we get the angle point lines, we set lines at all levels of hangers. Hanger 1, hanger 2, hanger flux over 3. Okay, and then we add the platforms in center, right? Platforms in center, lines of travel, and direct signals and modifications. There's the platforms, right? Then we set the realms. Okay, we set the realms, line connection setting, stargates, measures, and position of wormholes. And then we travel through them, right? Set lines of course centers and a 45 line split lines of anomaly, a secured line defense lines, and position of processing, and directing modification system. Okay? Then we bring into higher levels into the mothership and travel. Okay, it's there, right? Sets course lines, height and line, position location, navigation 1, 2, flux over 3, position of 4 over 6 over 9, and track location. All there through equation, right? Directing in communications to a different angle and track location. Different angle and track location, people. Okay? Different angle and track locations. It's set position, right? So, Captain, you have to start seeing a plane in a 4-line different angle. You got to see it this way, you got to see it this way, you got to see it this way, and you got to see it this way. Okay? So planes only do this. They go on angle lines. Set a position of processing up. Okay, so the plane goes up. This is the plane. Set your correlation system and travel. That's the plane, right? All right, so the plane goes up, level is out. This is all plane does, guys. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else, right? And does a 3-180. Okay? So you have to truly understand how this all works. Now, what you get in position of is direct signals in position lines of attractions. Directing lines of 4 lines of flux equals 1 indication setting into 0 gravity in positions into 1, 2, 3. Position lines of 4 into 5 lines of sequence. Arrow indicates lines of 4 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 2 into 1 into 3 into 1 and back into 0 in center communication system and travel. Sets core line calculates center. One system, one traction, one division, one location, one center, one calculates line center inference of times continuum. Dependent position lines of patterns, lines of signals in rotation surface, interpretation height calculations. Okay? Now, getting communication to grounds, we allocate lines of high center interference of force lines of 5 equals lines of formations, set lines of E track location, high center interference of tractor, directing core lines centers in metric meters of scale, process lines, signature panel, line direct signal 007. Calculate the modify, mothership comes in again, and track location. Okay? Similarly, the line core centers in my signature pattern, line position of 007, puts it up in traction. All 3 calculations. Process communication ground centers allocate line screens, puts all communication center of operation surface. Setting communication high setting calculation system, all lines of track locations of balance in set calculations. Hooah. Oh, it's not there. See? I put a dome there, but you're not ready to reach it, the frequency. So I got to do it again. Do you see it? Or is it gone? Yay, it's there. And that's all it is. If I keep going, you guys won't understand because it's too complicated. But what you have to understand, complication is easy. It's the formation system. So don't confuse your line settings and anything through travel. So if the line isn't there, you're not ready to see it. Okay? Until you understand the frequencies of you. And once you understand the frequencies of you, then you understand the time continuance of everything that you see. It's always been with you. The balance, the energy, the existing of the networks. Now we're coming into all levels of the 7 city realms in set position that you brought in through frequency grounds. And that communicates in high center position to its operation surface in track locations. Okay? We're done. Okay, I'll see you guys in 5. Adios.